Is the Mavic 2 Pro still good in 2022? Well, I'm going to answer that question, but before I do, you have to ask yourself a couple questions first. So for starters, what are you looking for in a drone? And then on top of that is the price point. Are you okay with buying used, or do you need a brand new one? And the last one, are you a hobbyist or are you a professional looking for a drone? So to give you guys a little bit of background, I run a photography and videography company, and I personally still shoot on my Mavic 2 Pro. I do everything from weddings to real estate and everything else in between, and this is more than good enough for me. So is it good enough for you in 2022? So there are obviously many new drones out there, some of which are cheaper than the Mavic 2 Pro and offer better technology. And that's why that question's important of, are you buying it used? Because if you can find a cheap one on eBay and you don't need the fanciest, newest technology, then it might be a good deal for you. So with that being said, let's go over some of the specs, and I want you to compare it to your business model or your hobbyist needs and see if it's good enough for what you need. Starting off with the camera, it offers a 1-inch CMOS sensor at 20 megapixels. Now, for most people out there who are trying to do aerial photography, whether it's long exposure, night shots, stills, panoramics, 20 megapixels is going to be more than enough. There's going to be very few cases where it's not going to be enough, and if you have that, then honestly you're going to need a way better drone than this. Moving on to sensors. The Mavic 2 Pro is equipped with omnidirectional sensors. That means it has multiple sensors going up, down, left, right, forward, back, all that stuff. They are older sensors, and I'm sure the newer drones have better ones. However, that being said, if you are new, having these sensors on here in all those directions gives you that peace of mind to make sure you don't crash into anything, especially when you're first starting out. Now, if you're seasoned in drone flying, you understand that sensors are nice training wheels, but as you get better, you're really gonna fly with them off. So if that sounds kind of weird to you, just think of all the fly-through shots that you do through small holes or objects. Your sensors are going to kick off, your obstacle avoidance is going to kick off, and the only way to get those nice shots is really to turn off those sensors. Also, if you plan on flying during twilight or at nighttime, your ambient light is going to be so low it'll render your sensors useless. So like I said, it's nice to have if you're a beginner flyer, but ultimately you really don't need the nicest sensors on drones. So finally, moving on to the video specs. It's capable of shooting everything from 1080p all the way to 4K. The difference is going to be the frame rates. So 1080p, you can go all the way up to 120 frames per second. It can shoot 2.7K at 60 frames per second, and then 4K at 30 frames per second. Now, I know what you're thinking, 4K at 30 seems kind of low, right? Especially now there's drones that shoot higher than 4K, other drones that shoot 4K at a higher frame rate. I personally shoot at 4K 30, and let me tell you why. So if you're shooting a cinematic shot and I shoot it at 30 frames per second, if I export it at 24 frames per second, that means I can lower the speed down to 80%. If I'm already shooting in tripod mode, that shot is going to be so slow. It'll take forever for it to achieve its final composition, and I'm going to need a speed ramp it anyway. So for my personal needs, I won't need to shoot at 60p where I can bump it down to 40% or even 120p at 4K. And then the reason I shoot at 4K actually isn't to export at 4K. I'll export everything at 1080p. The reason I shoot at 4K is so I can punch in and then reposition, rescale, and then adjust the rotation. And the key here is really understanding whether your subjects need anything higher than 1080p. In my experience, especially with weddings and real estate, you really don't. You really can't tell the difference. So when it comes to real estate agents, they don't care if it's 4K or full HD, as long as their clients can see it, it's clear, it's stable, it's sharp. That's all they really care about. And when it comes to weddings, I've yet to meet a couple that needs 4K footage. Most of my clients that I shoot weddings for don't really care for 4K. They just want something that they could share with their friends and family on social media, and most of those people are viewing that on a phone anyway, where you can't really tell the difference between 4K or 1080p. But that's about it for the video, guys. If you're someone who's on the fence and sees a good one like on eBay for a good price and you think it's worth it for you with your business model, then by all means buy it. And if you're someone who currently has a Mavic 2 Pro and you're considering upgrading, make sure to weigh out your business needs versus how much the new drone will cost, and if you can justify it and if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, stick with the Mavic 2 Pro, save your money, use it elsewhere. But that's about it for the video, guys. If you found this video useful, make sure to give me one of these bad boys. Hit that subscribe button with that bell notification if you want to see more videos like this. And of course, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section below and I'll address it in a future video. See ya.